Hello, welcome to Unity of Fredericksburg. My name is Chris, and I'm pleased to welcome all of you to the Unity of Fredericksburg weekly online gathering. At Unity of Fredericksburg, we're advancing the movement of spiritual awakening and transformation through unity, a positive path for spiritual living. Our message today comes from our minister, Reverend Cheryl Fair. And now here's Reverend Cheryl.
Hello, friends, and thank you, Chris. And so happy to be here with everyone today. Today at this year at Unity of Fredericksburg, we have a thread of messages that we're following, talking about the foundations of the Unity belief system. And today I'm going to be drawing from the book, The Second Lesson from Lessons in Truth by Emily Cady, which is one of my favorites when it comes to Unity texts. And but one thing I want to say importantly before we start is that when you are in unity, however you perceive God or your personal sense of being, that is what's right for you. So unity is not here to tell you how you need to perceive God, how you need to think about God. So whatever your personal compass is when it comes to defining the divine, that's all good with us in unity. One of the ministers that I learned the most from, she was actually an atheist when she started attending unity classes. And she was actually uncomfortable with the word God. And so for a couple of years while she was taking classes and becoming more comfortable with her own vocabulary around her belief system, she referred to God as peanut butter. So I'm just here to say that however God shows up for you in your vocabulary, in your belief system, all of that is fine in unity. We are not here to tell you that you have to believe in a certain way, and that if you don't believe in a certain way, bad things will happen to you, or you're going to go to the bad place. None of that. Anything that will happen to you when you are in unity. What unity does offer is unity is a part of a spiritual movement called New Thought. So we offer some suggestions, some new thoughts that hopefully encourage you to deeper insight and more wonderful ideas about that which we call God. And if anything that I'm saying kind of doesn't fit with you, also don't worry about that. Don't worry about that, because we're not here to tell you what to do or how to do it. So if I'm talking about something that just really doesn't fit with where you are right now, again, as this minister that I learned the most from, Reverend Joyce Fisher Pierce, would say, just put that up in the shelf of your mind. Just put it up on the shelf. You don't have to throw it away. You can just put it up on the shelf, and then maybe later you can take it back down and see if you feel differently about it. So that's my kind of long premise to this talk that we're doing today. It's from the second lesson in Lessons in Truth by Emily Cady. And I've edited her title a little bit. My title is What is God and What Are We? What is God and what are we? These are kind of essential questions for us to sit with. And as I was preparing for my message, what came to me was a memory from a book that I read in childhood. And our Zoom host, Jason, is going to show you an image from the cover of this book, so you might remember it. The book is called Are You My Mother by P.D. Eastman. And this book was published in 1960. So if you're not familiar with Are You My Mother, a baby bird falls out of the nest while its mother is away gathering food. And then the baby bird kind of hops around asking different creatures and machines and things. Are you my mother? Are you my mother? And I remember being, as a child, really feeling distressed and unhappy for this baby bird who, came out of the shell and mom wasn't there. And that kind of sense of distress of what am I and who am I and where's my reference point? Who and what am I and how am I connected with the universe as a whole? So that memory of that book came up for me because this is a core question that we all think about. And sometimes things happen in our lives that can really kind of throw us out of our established belief system, the belief system that we've been using all our lives so far, things that we do ourselves, things that happen outside of us. And very often it's those moments when people are led to come to unity because there are some new thoughts here. So our first question is, what does unity have to say about what is God? So unity does have a foundation in Christian scripture. Unity founders Charles and Myrtle Fillmore were very well versed in the Bible. And so when we look to the Bible, it's pretty simple in that God is defined in only two places in the entire Bible. And in both circumstances, it's fairly simple. The first one says God is spirit. Not a spirit, like an entity, a being, a ghostly thing, but spirit itself, like essence, beingness. And the other place where God is defined as God is love. So let's look at that first one. God is spirit. And I am going to read to you from Lessons in Truth, where Emily Cady talks about this a little bit. Let me get my handy reading glasses here. Here's Emily Cady saying, God then is not, as many of us have been taught to believe, a big personage or man residing somewhere in a beautiful region of the sky called heaven, where good people go when they die and see him clothed in ineffable glory. Nor is he a stern, angry judge only awaiting opportunity somewhere to punish bad people who have failed to live a perfect life here. God is spirit, or the creative energy that is the cause of all visible things. God as spirit is the invisible life and intelligence underlying all things. So there's a good definition of God as spirit. We also talk in unity about God as love. So we're all familiar with the human emotion of love. Now, it's not something that we can pick up. It's not something that we can see, but we feel it and we know it's real. And we see the evidence of it. We see the evidence of it through a wonderful hug or a gift or something like that. But love itself is a formless energy. And so when we say God is love, we mean that God is that energy itself. The movement of that energy is the action of God. And so that energy itself is what we talk about as being God. And in Unity teachings, we talk about the power of love beyond the emotion of love. And we talk about love as having a magnetizing energy, a harmonizing energy, a unifying energy. And that is when we use the word God, we're talking about that energy of the universe that unifies and brings people and entities together. So that's another aspect of how we define God in unity. Emily Cady goes on to also define God as wisdom and intelligence. And she says we're talking about all of the wisdom and intelligence of the universe itself, again, is that energy that we refer to as God. And as we are one with God, because it is a unity after all, we're talking about oneness, we have access to all of that knowing and guidance as we maintain a spiritual practice and learn to look within for guidance as we go through our lives. So, wisdom and intelligence. Emily Cady also defines God as power. Again, we're not talking about God as an entity or a being. So it's not God it's not God has power, like the kind of powers we see in superhero movies and things like that, but that God is power. So all the power that there is to do anything in your life and in the life of others, that, again, the energy of that is what we call God. There are also in Unity teachings what we call the omnis. Omnipotence. So notice that I'm saying omnipotence, a quality that is God, not omnipotent, as in God is a being who is omnipotent. It's omnipotence, that energy of power. Omniscience, that is the all-knowing aspect of God. And omnipresence, meaning that this presence, this energy that we call God, is present in every moment and in every circumstance and in every place. There is not a spot where God is not. So, we've talked a lot about God, but what are we? That's the other aspect of our talk today. What are we? Jesus shows us the way to access this, and we do reference Jesus in Unity as our elder brother, our way shower, as the example of how to do this human life, not as an exception, but as the example of how we do this. And Jesus shows us how to define ourselves when he says, the Father and I are one. The Father and I are one. So we look at ourselves as being an aspect of that which we call God. So in Unity, we don't talk about there's God and there's me, because the simple math is right there. If we're talking about oneness, there's just one. If you think of God as something separate from yourself, well, that's more than one, isn't it? That's two. So that's separation thinking. So we always are kind of using that as a litmus test to see, are we in alignment with oneness languaging, oneness thinking? And then as we recognize all of these wonderful qualities of God that we've been talking about, wisdom and intelligence, power, love, all of these are qualities that we can access within our divine nature. Now, of course, we're human beings. We make mistakes, right? And sometimes we fall out of the nest like a baby bird and we wonder, who am I? What am I? And so all of these teachings are here to remind us that as we turn our attention away from our outer human experiences, as we turn our focus within to our divine nature, we have access to all that is in God. So, we've been talking a lot of heady stuff here, and one thing that's really important is for us to bring these things that we talk about into the heart space, into our body, to embody our practice so that it doesn't just stay up in our head in some sort of detached intellectual space. So right now we're going to do an exercise around this, what is God and what are we? And I'm drawing this from an example that Emily Cady provides in Lessons in Truth. So I'd like for you to take a breath. Let's take a breath, and if you wish, you can allow your outer eyes to drift closed. And I would like for you to think of the ocean. Just consider as you're breathing the breadth and depth and expanse of the ocean. And remember that 2/3 of the earth is covered in ocean. They say that of all the unexplored spaces of where humanity has explored, there are a multitude of spaces on the earth itself, and they are at the depths of the ocean. So think about how deep and wide and expansive is the ocean. And this can be a wonderful example, a metaphor for that which we call God, being larger than you can even conceive, deeper and wider. And imagine yourself as part of the ocean, as if you are a drop of water in the ocean. And as a drop of water in the ocean, you have all of the qualities of the ocean in yourself as that drop. But let's go beyond this image of the drop, because I don't know about you, but my human brain will step up and go, wait a minute. If you're there at the beach, you can go down to the shore with your little pail and you can separate out a bucket of water. So we don't want to think of ourselves as having that capacity to be separated. So what I would like for you to think of is that you are one expression, and there are multitudes of expressions, one expression of the movement of the ocean. The ocean is never still, is it? It's always moving, sometimes in gentle swells, sometimes in mighty waves. So feel that in your body. Feel that in your heart space. I can't remember the figures right now, but there's wonderful data as to how much of a percentage each and every one of us is, as humans, is water. So feel that yourself as one individual expression of the movement that is the totality of the ocean, or with this image that we're using, the totality of what we call God. As the ocean exists in you, you exist in the ocean. You cannot be separated from the ocean, just like you can't be separated from God. Sometimes you express as a gentle swell, and sometimes in your life you get caught up in a storm and become a part of a mighty wave of change that is crashing. You are an expression, a wave in the ocean. This is an example of how you exist within all that is what we call God, is part of the motion, the action, the expression of all that is. So come back to the present here with me, and we will talk about one more thing before we move into our time of meditation. I realize that the imagery of the ocean might not work for everyone, so in our meditation, we'll take it in a different direction. And I want to share one more thing, one more way in which we define God in unity. And we define God as good, or goodness. And again, we're not talking about an entity or a being that is good in action, but the essence of goodness itself. And even as we experience circumstances in our lives or aspects of ourselves that in our human life we label as not good or bad or evil or things like that, it's important for us to remember that the benevolent energy of the universe, so that would be another description of that which we call God, is expressing in all circumstances at all times. That's that omnipresence. So we can very often get into circumstances in our human lives where we can't see that. This is bad. We can't see the goodness, but in our hearts, as we, as Jesus teaches us to do, not judge by appearances, but turn our perspective within to always be seeking the goodness that is God expressing and setting intentions to find the goodness. And I always say, if none of those are happening for you, then make the choice to be the goodness, to be the voice of goodness, to be the hands, to be the action, the motion, to choose the wave that you're expressing, to be the goodness in whatever circumstance. And as we do that, as we shift our attention to knowing that omnipresence, omnipotence, omniscience of what is at the center of our being, we can grow and learn and thrive through any circumstances. So we're going to take all of that right now and move into a time of meditation. We'll be using a different example of this, what we call God. So let's start off with just taking some deep breaths again. You can soften your eyes or allow your outer eyes to drift closed after you wish. And just imagine yourself in your favorite place of nature. If you have your eyes open, you can see this beautiful image that we have up. So just imagine yourself in your favorite place of nature. So that could be at the beach or in the mountains, or it could be your favorite park or your backyard. Just imagine being in that space. Focus on your breath as you imagine the way that space, way that place sounds. Recall how the air feels on your skin. Imagine a soft breeze blowing. What does it smell like in that space that you're in? All of these kinds of examples we've been talking about have a distinct smell and essence, don't they? Whether you're in the mountains or at the beach. Imagine the textures. If you reach out and touch what is around you, what does it feel like to your skin? And as you dive into all of that, again, focus on your breath. Recognize that all the living creatures on the surface of the earth are breathing. Animals are breathing, reptiles are breathing, and all of the plants, they breathe in a different way than we do, but they are processing the atmosphere around them just as we do. And that movement of the breath itself is the expression of that which we call God. You are breathing that God energy. This atmosphere that is here is the same atmosphere that has been here since the beginnings of this planet. We're breathing the same air as was in and out of the lungs of our ancestors, wonderful inspirations and leaders. Just feel your breath, that movement in and out as an expression of God. And as we move into a time of silence, I'll provide you with a little mantra to take with you that you can use with the rhythm of your breath. I offer this as a suggestion. Mantra is, God is, I am. God is, I am. And we move now into a time in the silence. And as we begin now to bring our attention back to this moment, back into your body, feel that rhythm of the breath, and that fascinating process wherein our bodies take in the air and synthesize it and use it and let it back into the universe. That breathing in and out. Feel that all through your body. As we come back into this moment, you can allow your eyes to open if you wish, and we will conclude this time with an affirmation. And here's our affirmation. God is, I am, and I am grateful. Let's do that a couple more times. Do it with me, all right? From where you are at home, God is, I am, and I am grateful. One more time. God is, I am, and I am grateful. And so it is, my friends. Thank you so much for being here. I'll hand it back over to my friend Chris. There she is.
For those of you watching on YouTube, we thank you for joining our weekly broadcast. Please like this video and subscribe to the Unity of Fredericksburg YouTube channel so you can find us easily again next Sunday at 11 a.m. Eastern. We encourage you to join us in the Zoom community room for the full Sunday morning experience, including music, prayer, and connection. Send an email to info@uova.org to receive the Zoom link. And for those local to Central Virginia, Unity of Fredericksburg offers a variety of fun and enriching in-person gatherings every month. Visit our website, uova.org, to learn more about our mission of spiritual awakening and transformation. Support our ministry with your financial donation. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.